Welcome to Martini time. It's that happy time of the day, and I've kind of like renewed my energy for these talks, and I kind of thank these two student doctors that came, two young ladies that came to my house yesterday to see what a senior citizen was like, And so we talked for about 3 hours, and it was a really great conversation. And when somebody's interested in you and asks questions about you, like, it really stimulates conversation. So anyway, I'm stimulated, and I'm the Martini priest, and actually, when I fix this Martini, when I go in the kitchen and stir it, you don't shake it, you stir it. And when you stir the Martini, for me, it really is like preparing the Eucharist, because the idea for the talk kind of like gels or forms there, and it becomes kind of like an embryo that wants to be born. And so then I come in and hook up my iPad and give birth to the talk. And yesterday, there were many interesting topics that came up in our conversation. One of them was you need a bigger boat. So let's talk about that. And also too, the overall theme of last night's talk, the title, and which I'm going to continue, is called The Joy of Aging. I mean, because what the hell? I mean, if the doctor's students come to visit you because you are an aged person, a senior, well, then you must have some experience. So what the hell? I'm going to capitalize on my experience. I'll be 82 next month. I might as well work it. I might as well work it and squeeze it and see what's in there. So the joy of aging is kind of paradoxical. Most people think, aging, what joy is that? You just old age, sickness, and death. I don't want to go there. And I noticed like most people, when they get older, all they talk about is aging. And, what the doctors and the pills and this and that and what's hurting and what they can't do and who died and who's sick and, aging, losing, letting go. It's the fall of life. The leaves are falling off the tree. And a lot of people, aging seems to be a time when people look back on the spring and the summer and the blooms of spring, and now it's fall and the chill is coming. The chill of death is coming, you see. And, I'm not that. I'm a late blooming flower, A late blooming flower is the brightest of all. I used to have a lot of dahlias, and they're late blooming, and they're really brilliant, nice fall colors. It's the breath of death that makes the colors come out, and the vibrancy, and the beauty. So the joy of aging is what I want to talk about. And of course, you must be curious about, well, how do you do that? How do you have any joy in old age, sickness, and death, you see? Well, the Buddha asked that question. Siddhartha, that was who the Buddha was before he became, let me move my clock here. Siddhartha, before he became the Buddha, which is the awakened one, left his pleasure palace, and where he had been protected from old age, sickness, and death by his father. And the pleasure palace, his palace, is a metaphor for our culture, our civilization, our comfort civilization. We don't live in another name for a consumer culture is comfort culture. Comfort is what we most value and most fear losing, comfort. So we are in a pleasure palace in that sense. And you have to go out and you have to find old age, sickness, and death and look at it. It'll be a shock. When the doctor calls and says you have a lump, That's discovering old age, sickness, and death. But not somebody else's old age, sickness, and death, but your old age, sickness, and death. There's a big difference. Oh, everybody dies, everybody gets old, and yada, yada, you know. But when you get old, you experience the breath of death breathing on you, you know, the closeness of it, you know. Well, that's subjective. That's the Buddha's experience of Siddhartha. Not the objective, but the subjective. So Buddha teaching, Buddha Dharma, is subjective teaching, not objective teaching, like religions and philosophy and psychology and all of that. It's not about mankind or other people. It's about me, I, you know. So how do I discover the joy of aging? Well, let's talk a little bit about that bigger boat. It's a metaphor from Jaws. You remember that movie? Jaws. When the fellow saw Jaws, he said, "We're going to need a bigger boat," and because the boat they had to kill this big shark was not big. The shark was bigger than the boat. So death is bigger than the boat. You see, Jaws is a metaphor for death, for that fear of losing it all, of being devoured by life. You see, of being eaten by life. That's what death is. Life eats you. Life lives on life. So life is going to eat you. Make room for more life. That's what it's all about. You can't separate the two. So we're going to need a bigger boat if you want to have the joy, experience the joy of aging. So just a little simple thing then, leading, you know, I live in a kind of a monastic life here. I live in Blackstone, small town. I live in a big Victorian house. The house my wife grew up in, by the way. And it has big rooms. You can see tall ceilings. And it's got a place for everything. It's got a place for all my artifacts here, you see. And so it's a big house. And I live here much like I would live if I were a monk. I mean, I do make runs to Walmart, or it's a big adventure to go to Costco once a month. buy some big supplies, you know, like toilet paper and stuff like that. But I live a pretty reclusive life. It's not that I don't go out, it's just that everything I need is here in my little monastic cell, you see. And so I discovered that one of the mantras, if you want to call it, or refrain that echoes in my mind, not to mention you need a bigger boat, we'll talk more about that, but you are the world and the world is you. So if you live in wherever you live, it's really the whole world. The whole world is contained, your whole world, the subjective dimension of you, the one that says, I'm going to die, that world, that I that is going to die, is the whole world. And that whole world is you. That's the subjective. That's the Buddha world. Now, the objective world is, of course, the world of the media, the newspapers, you know, the books, the knowledge, the libraries, the external objective world of things, of the grammar, the nouns, and the its, you know, and the things. That's all defined and put in a book. In the encyclopedia world, that's the objective world. But the I world, the Buddha world, has no definition. That is, I am the world, you see. So and we can't even think this way because our map isn't big enough. The boat's too small to hold the I of the Buddha. The boat of the Western world, of our culture, of our comfort culture, is too small to hold the I of the Buddha, to hold the subjective I that asks, who am I? Who am I, you see? Not I as a man or a woman, not that I. Am I male or female? All of these objective nouns. No, the I that we want to know, the I of the Buddha, the I that wants to wake up, the I that wakes up and says, I am, is the Buddha I. And so then Buddha says, you're all Buddha I's. You're all that subjective I, the one that has no second. So the one that has no second, you see, if you look at the world from that way, then wherever you go, it is you. If you go to California, you're still you. If you stay in a little room, you're still you. Wherever you are the center of your world, you see. That is a shift in the center of our consciousness. And when you wake up to that, it's transformative. It's revolutionary. It's radical because it changes everything. Now, no matter where you go, you're at home. So I'm here in this big house, and I'm at home, you see. Now you could say, well, that's easy for you to say. You're on Social Security. What do you need, Well, yes, on that. I don't have to go out and sit on the corner and beg for food. But the point I'm making is that from the viewpoint of the Buddha, from the I, from the center, where you are, is your monastery, is your retreat, is the whole world. No matter where you are, in a small container, in a big container, whatever you're doing, working, not working, whatever the world is giving you, you are at that center of it. You are the center. And when you have that view, your boat's bigger. Now your boat includes the other in the world. So now the world is not hostile. Now it's just you. So, notice that I've run out a little time. So I hope that, that you need a bigger boat is basically a working mantra. You need a bigger boat. Is that when you come in contact with the world as being hostile to you, when you come in contact with the world that offends you, that outrages you, that gets you angry, makes you feel the victim, when you come in contact with the world that's sharp and it bumps you and it irritates you and you say, why is it doing this to me? When you run into that world, you need a bigger boat. And the bigger boat includes the other as you. And suddenly you have a different perspective on it. Suddenly a creative response will rise up instead of a reactive response. And that creative response is joyous. Creativity is joy. So when you bump up and rub against the world and it's irritating, remember, pause, remember, I need a bigger boat. And when you remember that bigger boat, suddenly the boat includes what irritates you. And that changes everything, because now you are not reacting, you are responding and playing with the world in a new way, in a creative way. And that is the joy of aging. Thanks for dropping in.